In all honesty, as a technical recruiter and working in the software space, going through a lot of the resumes that come through for the job descriptions that I post just are really bad. So in my honest hope is just with this video that we can help as many people as possible to create resumes that are actually going to get past that initial screening and are not going to just get cold in the first 20 seconds of applying to a job, which I can guarantee you 90% of the people that are applying to jobs, especially in the software and technical field, are instantly getting cold in that initial look over because their resume is either not formatted correctly, they're really badly set up, or they're just not doing the core things that you need to do to get past both the systematic filtering and the human filtering. So hopefully we can go through each of those steps and make sure that you don't make the same mistakes. Resume optimization is different in today's age. You have to compete with both AI, now looking at your resume and filtering keywords, alongside humans actually reading those resumes and going over to see if it fits the job description. Out of thousands of people that apply to a job, you may only get 10, even less, that actually pass on to the next stage and actually go to a phone interview stage or a technical interview for whatever job they're looking for. So with all these different resumes coming in, it's important to make a really good first impression. So we're going to go step by step in how you can optimize your resume so you can get past each of these steps and make sure that your resume stands out amongst the thousands that may come in for any given job application. We're going to break this down into 4 steps. The first step is going to be optimizing your resume to pass ATS systems and keyword search filtering. The second step is going to be optimizing that resume to pass the human-centric review of that resume to make sure that it looks good, it's readable, and is passable in that sense. Third is going to be reviewing your technical skills as well as your soft skills. And then step number 4 is going to be optimizing your resume for very specific sections or very specific jobs that you're applying to. So tailoring your resume to the job description. A little bit about me. I've been a software developer for over 10 years and a technical recruiter for just over 3 years. So I'm familiar with the process of both setting up a job and going through and screening resumes, setting up ATS systems to filter those resumes, going through and giving the initial phone call, doing technical interviews and screening, and basically everything all the way up to joining an engineering team, both from the recruitment side and as a team lead in the software development industry to bring on those new candidates. So hopefully with that experience, we'll be able to go through and optimize these resumes in what I would like to see and hopefully others would like to see in that job application process. So step number 1 is setting up your resume to pass both ATS filtering and manual keyword filtering. A lot of ATS systems and filtering software that is used on resumes hasn't quite caught up to the new AI wave, and so they're not quite using like most advanced AI technology, but they still do a lot of keyword matching. And the reason for this is that most job applications get hundreds, if not thousands of applications, and it's just not feasible to go through each and every one to see if they have the right skills to even warrant being looked at. I'll tell you, I've posted quite a few job applications for things like a software developer, like a Python developer, something like that, and I'll get a janitor or a nurse applying to the job that are just spamming out their resume to as many positions as they can. And so these filtering systems that are put in place are actually important. One of the bigger things that you need to take into account when you're optimizing your resume is having the right keywords and technical skills listed on your resume, so that when that filtering system actually goes through and reads that resume, they grab out those keywords and they can put you in the right pile when filtering the resume. The keywords are important to list are basically all of your technical skills. These are the most common ways that you're going to filter out a lot of technical resumes when you're applying to something like a software developer job. So programming languages, frameworks, things like that. You want to list out all of those skills and all of those technologies on your resume in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be the most prominent thing on the resume, but it does need to be included in that resume so that when that filtering system goes through, it matches those keywords. Sometimes it's done in a manual filtering way, in which case, it may not necessarily be a system that's looking for those keywords, but it may be a non-technical person that's going through the resume and looking to see if it has those words in it. So it's good to make sure that you have all of those skills listed, but look at the job description and look what they're asking for, because sometimes it's not as specific as you'd think, or sometimes the languages kind of get mixed up. Here's an example. Oftentimes I'll post a job application for a C# or .NET developer or something like that. Somebody may put on their resume a C# developer, others may put a .NET developer. If a non-technical person goes through and reads that resume, depending on their skill level, they may not know the difference between C# and .NET, or they may not correlate them as the same language. So it's important that you have both of those keywords on your resume so that you hit what the job description is looking for. So whether or not it's a system that's looking at it, a human that's looking at it, or a non-technical person, they can get the sense that you know the programming languages that are required for this position, or frameworks, or any other skills that you'll see listed on that job description. ATS systems are an interesting thing in the industry. You'll find that a lot of larger companies ironically use these ginormous ATS systems that suck. They kind of suck, but they have really good compliance and they've been used for such a long time that most companies don't want to swap out of it. So you're going to find a lot of ATS systems that just use very basic keywords, very basic filtering. They're not going to use ChatGPT to be reading your resume and filtering it through some sort of super advanced system. So you don't really have to worry about making your resume viable for ChatGPT or anything like that. At least for now. As we move into the future, you will see that happening, which will only change the basics. It'll make it easier for you to explain it in a more natural way, your experiences and your skills and languages, as opposed to having that section where just spam keywords, which is still relevant today. You still have to have that section which shows all your skills and programming languages and things like that. To pass that ATS layer, unfortunately. Step 2 is going to be creating a human readable resume. As we've gone through in the first step and gone through and made sure that we have all of the technical skills listed, programming languages, frameworks, and things like that, we don't want that to be the center of attention when we're creating our resume. There's been many times where I've gotten applications where it's basically just a list of keywords or something like that, and it's not gonna fly. Because while it may pass a ATS system or filtering, when a human goes to read that resume, they're going to be completely confused, and the focal point shouldn't be on the keywords that are listed. So oftentimes you can separate the resume and you can show like a skill section off on the side, and you can list all those programming languages and frameworks. And then in your main section, the main things that you're going to want to list are the jobs that you've worked, the positions, the company names, how long you were there, and the description of what you did at that company. It's not necessarily the best to put your day-to-day operations under the description, which I see a lot of the time, but it's more of a way to sell yourself as what you've done in the position, what languages you've used, what sets you apart, what makes you special or made you special in that position. If it was just a generic software development job, what cool things did you work on? What projects did you complete? Things like that are your way to sell to the person reading, both non-technical and technical, about why you're good or why you were good at that position. And this helps for your future positions, showing off that, you're not just taking this as a job to do the bare minimum, essentially is what you want to show off. So use that job description well underneath the companies that you've worked for. A lot of people think that creating a human-friendly resume means going on Canva or Googling like a resume creator and using a really fancy template. And it doesn't. In all honesty, it doesn't matter to me whether or not it's using graphics or not using graphics. It more matters the format that it's in and that it's easy to read. In fact, some of the templates go way overboard with the graphics and make it even harder to read. But something to keep in mind is in the first 20 seconds, I need to be able to tell what you're good at, what you're looking for, and your work experience that you have that's relevant to what you're applying to. If you're a software developer, saying that you're a full stack software developer, good. Showing the technical programming languages and skills that you use, good. Showing all the jobs that you've worked for, the duration, the job title, descriptions below it, good, right? Format that in a linear way that makes it so I can go one by one and just check off, this is a person that's a good fit for this. I move it to the next pile. And that's really what you want to do. You want to get moved to the next pile. You don't want to be cold in that first 20 seconds, which is where most resumes get cold. So when you're looking at either using a template or just writing a resume in a PDF, make sure you keep it simple and make sure it's easy to read and easy to digest. Step number 3 is going to be reviewing your technical skills, but also your soft skills. This is a little bit different from what you would normally put on a resume, or what a lot of people put on a resume is what I should say. As technical focused people, we like to focus on a lot of the languages and frameworks that we use, right? We want to list all the programming stuff we've done, all the, frameworks that we've used, because we think that that's the main focal point, which to an extent it is. You want to hire somebody that has the experience in those languages and frameworks. But what often falls by the wayside is the soft skills. So things like, your ability to adapt in a team, your cultural fit, your ability to work in teams, and also things like side projects you've worked on. What's your passion? What open source projects have you worked on? Highlighting these things that you have a passion for really separates your resume from a lot of the very stern technical, only showing, a very robotic sense of what languages and frameworks and experiences you have. So putting to the forefront, your volunteer work or what you're passionate about. You worked on a really cool AI side project, or you developed a really cool system in your off time. Things like that will really push that resume to set it aside from the thousands of other people that are applying to most job applications in the remote work culture that we have nowadays. Step number 4 is a little bit more of a contentious area, and that is tailoring your resume and creating a cover letter. As a technical recruiter and as a software developer, I've really never had a ton of for cover letters, because most of the time people use cover letters to just reiterate the experiences that they've shown in their resume, or to butter you up in hopes of oh man, he said this was a great place to work for, even though he doesn't have any idea what the company is yet, to try to get the job. And I've never really been in that space. But some recruiters do love cover letters, and some job applications require cover letters. In my experience, if you're going to tailor your resume, as in, show very specific skills on the forefront for what the job you're applying to is, i.e. you're applying to a .NET developer position and you put your .NET skills up in front and center for that specific thing, or maybe they're using a very specific niche framework and you show that you have experience with that. That is a great way to get through that process, but it is very time consuming. So unless it's a very important job for you, or you are seeing a position that is far and above better than other positions and you want to spend a little bit of extra time in that area, that's when I would recommend either writing a cover letter or optimizing the resume based on the job description. I wouldn't do it for every single position that you apply for, because nowadays with remote work becoming the norm, especially in technical jobs, you're going to have a lot of people from all over applying to these jobs. There's going to be a lot of applications. So unfortunately, it comes down to a little bit of a numbers game to make sure that you can get past both the ATS system and the humans that are reading it and just get into a technical interview in the first place, especially if you don't have a super amazing glowing career working for FANG companies and things like that that really set your resume apart. If you're working for, smaller companies, then tailoring your resume can help, but it's also somewhat of a numbers game and hitting them in the right time and position, in which case you don't want to spend all of your time focusing on tailoring and creating a cover letter, at least in my belief. Cover letters are the bane of my existence. If I'm looking through a ton of resumes, which usually I am because there's tons of people that are applying, I really don't have time to look through the cover letters. And 99.9% of people that write cover letters do it wrong. I don't want you to suck up to me, and I don't want you to talk about your technical skills or summarize your resume. Right? I have your resume on hand. I really want to hear why you would be a good fit for this job, or what sets you apart from the others that are applying. So maybe a soft skill or a passion or something that interests you about the company that you've seen from a precursory view of what you're looking for. Or even just straight up, being very honest of, this looks like a really great job for work-life balance, or I really need or want a high-paying job position, and I've been really, aiming in my career to reach this level. Something that's different from, hi, recruiter, your company looks absolutely amazing, and I would love to work for so-and-so because I think I'd be a great fit, right? Things like that are just copy pasted for every single resume that I get or every cover letter that I get. So if you're writing a cover letter, don't do that. And instead be unique in what you're talking about and put yourself in the position of, if you were in a software development team and you're looking for, someone to come join the team, you want someone that's real, someone that's, talking about real things, talking about a passion. You want somebody that's going to join the team and be a great addition, not somebody who's trying to sell their technical skills or butter you up to get the position, right? So keep that in mind when you're writing a cover letter. When it comes to tailoring your resume for a specific job or tailoring your resume to a job description that you see, I'd recommend only doing this if, one, you're applying to a bunch of different very specific positions. If you're applying to both a front-end position and a back-end position, and you know both, but you're trying to separate it out, then maybe you create a separate resume or something. But if you're looking to apply to a job that's like a FANG company or, a really, really good position, then you might want to go through your core resume and kind of like change it up a little bit to show the more prominent skills that they're looking for in an easier to find place. That way, like I talk about multiple times, in that 20-second snap judgment of looking at your resume, they can immediately see, oh, okay, this person is very good fit for this position. They know these languages, they know these frameworks, or they have this, certain fit for this job description. In those cases, I would recommend tailoring your resume. In almost every other case, if it's just a job that you're applying to, you're going through Indeed, you're applying to things, your best bet is just not to tailor your resume. Your best bet is just to optimize a singular or two resumes that are really good for the positions you're looking for. Make sure they're really solid, and then just use that for every single position that you're applying to outside of the few that you really want to tailor. Let's take a look at in my opinion, badly formatted resume. Excuse the redaction. I'm not going to dox anybody or, call anybody out, but we can look at this example of a resume to kind of show you what you should or shouldn't do inside of said resume. So if we take a look at the entire resume right here, we can see that it's both double-sided and that there is a lot of text and a lot of headings. This may pass the keyword filtering portion because you can list a lot of keywords, you can show a lot of technical skills, but the thing that it fails at is it's not very human readable. You can see that there are tons of different things that I'm supposed to be looking at, and I can't from a glance tell exactly what this person is. So you can see an objective, which shows, software developer, machine learning. Those are some keywords. I can see, technical skills, which is a list. And then over on the right side, it just goes through and it just starts listing jobs. But then it starts intermixing jobs with awards, with research publications, with all sorts of things. The thing you have to realize is that somebody who's filtering your resume or passing it forward is not going to spend that much time on your resume. They're not going to spend 5 minutes reading it. They're going to spend 30 seconds looking at it. They're going to make a snap judgment on whether or not they think it's good or not. And then they're either going to pass you or going to throw it in the garbage. There's just too many resumes that come in to spend that much time looking through a resume. So you really want to make sure that your resume is very well formatted. It's easy to see directly. So when you look at it, you can immediately tell what is your main position. You're like a software developer, or you're a .NET developer, or you specialize in this. Has your, a technical skills subsection, and basically just a list of, the jobs you've worked at. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It doesn't have to have a lot of like design, work or be a really cool looking template, but it does need to be super easy to read. And basically, if I can tell in 20 seconds or less who you are, what you're good at, and something that stands out, I'll spend more time looking at your resume and actually going and reading through. But you need to make sure that your snap judgment of what your resume looks like in the first 20 seconds is something that's really good. So something like this where it's split between, there's a lot of text on the screen, my eyes really don't know where to focus. It's not a great example of a resume. Here's an example of a resume that I would consider good. And we can see that in this resume, it's not super fancy. It's very plain. There's nothing crazy that draws my eyes, but it's laid out in a way that's super easy to see what's going on. So first off, I can see a summary of qualifications. Here's all of the languages and software, programming languages, information, courses, all the keyword basically stuffing is right here. So I can off the bat see, all the different languages. Not that I necessarily care a ton about that, but that's going to help you pass the ATS filtering and the keyword skimming. And then it jumps right into work experience, where it goes through, a job title, and then it goes through, what they did at that job, what they were good at, what specific things they've worked on, and what languages they've used. And then it's cut off here, but it goes on to show certifications, and then it goes on to show what courses they've done, what side projects they've done. And it kind of highlights in each section, something that they're good at and experience that they've had. In this case, I would say that this is a very technical resume. If they had sprinkled in a little bit more of the soft skills that we talked about, then that would be a really good resume. But as it is, it's a very standout resume in that I can at a glance see, okay, so this is, a back-end developer. He's working on a lot of database pipelines. He's working on a lot of, Hadoop servers and stuff like that. He's using a lot of back-end technology. And you can kind of get that from a glance of just reading the work experience. And, if you can see that, the companies that someone's working for or the titles, you can get a better gist of, what's going on. But this is going to pass that cursory glance to get to the next step. And then even when we get to the next step and a human reads it, they're going to find, what they're looking for. And as odd as it is to stuff all these keywords in here, and you can see that's kind of like a weird, and this doesn't have to be the main top section. In fact, I don't really know if I would recommend it as the top section, but somewhere in your resume, you can have a section like this. And it's good for both technical and non-technical people. Because if somebody is coming in that is from a non-technical background, they'll go in and they'll read and they'll say like, Scala, Java, Rust, C++, C, Haskell. And they're going through basically everything they've ever touched. And so if someone's non-technical, they don't really know what each of these things necessarily is, but they do know it's listed on the job description. They'll go through and they'll look for an exact match. They'll say like, he's used AWS, right? As opposed to saying, Amazon Web Services, right? They may not know, either what it stands for, or they may just be looking for general keywords. And you want to make sure that those relevant keywords are on there somewhere so that whether it's a technical person or a non-technical person, they can look at the resume and they really get a gist of what's going on. So this would be a good resume. Hopefully by following these steps and optimizing your resume, you can get a much better chance of getting through that ATS system, getting in front of the technical recruiter or the software engineer that's looking at your resume, and hopefully lead you to that phone interview or that initial interview that you're looking for in the job that you're applying to.